Hey friends, it is Shauna from lovelyrusticweddings.etsy.com. If you are catching this, you are on the replay. My timing is impeccable. From what I understand, that there is a show most people are probably watching, so my apologies on that. I am jumping on to do the water slide decals that I had talked about earlier in my first live, and if time allows, we'll throw on the second layer of glitter for those purple ombre cups we did earlier. So the wine tumblers we're doing water slide decals on. I was thinking if I can remember where I put the water slides. They're right here. So the water slide decals we're doing, I've already started a few. Let me show you what they're going to look like. This is what they'll look like when they're done. Well, this is actually just after 2 layers of epoxy. So these have been epoxied. They were epoxied once. I put the water slide on. I epoxied again. So we still have to go through and sand the rims. The bottom feels good. We'll have to spot sand the rims, wash them off, and then do a third and final coat of epoxy for these to be ready to ship off. So this is what we're working on today. We're doing the last 5 of these. And then, like I said, if we have time, we'll jump on and do the purple ombre, the second layer of glitter on the purple ombre tumblers we had done earlier on that live. So, to do water slides, these have all been printed on clear water slide paper. If you are interested in purchasing a ready-to-use water slide, you can grab those at withlovefromvinyl.etsy.com. It is one of the things that I offer. They are ready to use, so when you receive them, they'll be cut into like a square. You'll just fussy cut around them because they're clear, so it doesn't matter if these edges are showing. You'll fussy cut around them, kind of like I've done, and then you can drop them in water and you are ready to use them on your cup. When you place them on your cups, you want at least 1 layer of epoxy. If you're doing it after the second layer of epoxy and you've done any sanding whatsoever, you want to make sure you do not place your water slide decal over where you have sanded. So like if I sanded here and then I put my water slide decal here, let it dry, and then I epoxy over it, the dullness that happens after you sand will not go away. So that's something to keep in mind when you're placing your decal. These cups have been epoxied once, so I haven't done any sanding, so that's not something that I have to worry about. So I can literally just drop these in the water, let them hang out there for a second. Right now we're just loosening them from the backing. And once they are loose from the backing, we'll go ahead and place them on the cup. I use a silicone squeegee. You can use wet paper towel to get the water out from behind it. Whatever is easiest for you guys. The silicone squeegees aren't expensive. I get them on Amazon and they're usually Amazon Prime. So this is just about ready. Once you see the water slide starting to move like that, I don't know if you guys can see, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Once it starts moving like that, you're ready to place it. So you're going to want to get the cup wet where you're going to place it, and that gives you a little bit more maneuverability with your water slide. Place it where you would like it to be, then gently pull the backing out from behind it. Okay, so once you have it placed, then wet your silicone squeegee and you're pulling the water out from behind the decal, and that's what's helping it to kind of attach to the cup. Now keep in mind, water slide decals are not permanent on their own. So in the morning, this will be ready to epoxy because it will have completely dried. But you couldn't just take this now tomorrow morning and go and use it. The water slide decal is not permanent by itself. You're going to have to put another layer of epoxy over this, or you're going to have to bake the cup. You can't bake these cups. So like if you're doing it on a ceramic mug, then you can bake a water slide decal and make it permanent. But on glitter cups, you're going to need to put a layer of epoxy. So this one is set to dry. We'll let it dry overnight before we apply the next layer. Sorry, I actually put a wrinkle in it when I touched it just then. So we're going to let it dry overnight before we do the next layer of epoxy. So it's just going to hang out for a little bit. And that's as simple as it is. All of my water slide decals, if you order them from me, are that simple. You'll get them in the mail, you'll cut them down to size, apply them to your cup, let them dry, get a layer of epoxy or 2 over them depending on when you when you added the water slide, and then your cup is good to go. Water slides are one of my favorite decals to do. I love the colors that are in them. I love the way the glitter shines through. That is, it literally is one of my favorites. The downside of doing a clear water slide decal is that you are limited with the color of your cup. So this water slide, I couldn't put over a dark color glitter because you'll lose some of the vibrancy, and if it's a dark color glitter, you won't see the water slide decal at all. So if you're making them, keep that in mind. That's why you'll see the majority of my cups are light or white colored glitters. That's usually intentional because I like to use a water slide decal. And I mean, you can see they're super fast and easy to do. I don't do inkjet decals. If you are doing cups on your own and you're making your own water slide and you're using an inkjet printer, you are going to need to go through some steps to seal the decal before you can get it in the water. Otherwise your inkjet inks will run. I'm sorry, I can't give you the steps for that because I don't know them. I've never done them. But I'm sure if you looked it up on YouTube, it can't be that difficult, I promise. So keep that in mind if that's something you want to do on your own. If you've got an inkjet printer, it is not something that you can just drop in the water without sealing. But you can see how fast they are to do. And they literally, they will just hang out in my office drying, and then we'll put the epoxy on them tomorrow because it is these are all epoxied once because it is the first layer of epoxy. When I add the second layer of epoxy, we will sand it, wash it. Did we freeze? Okay, sorry. I'm watching on my iPad in case anyone has any questions. It froze for a second. So we will sand it. No, we will let it dry, epoxy it. Oh, what did I just say? We're on the first layer of epoxy. We'll let this dry, put the second layer of epoxy on, let it set. Then we will sand the areas that need to be sanded before we add that third and final layer of epoxy. Some of my water slide decals I will add on after the second layer of epoxy instead of the first, and it just depends on how smooth the cup turns out after that first layer of epoxy. But you can see this is why water slides are my absolute favorite. Now you'll notice on this one, this is a zebra print right here. So anywhere there would have been white is clear. So what you're actually seeing, let me see if I can focus on that a little bit better. What you're actually seeing is the glitter showing through where anywhere there would have been white on the actual decal. So some of the decals you may want to play with a little bit as far as the color glitter you're placing it against. Some of them, sometimes I have to play with the color of the decals to make sure it's going to look okay. Because once you know, printers don't print in white. So once you lose that white print, you might lose some of the definition. So like if you look at this one, if it didn't have this, I don't even know if you can see it on there. This decal, probably not. Sorry, I'm trying to get too close. So this decal has a faint black outline on this side of the ribbon. Well, I think it's got it on both, but this side of the ribbon helps define, it helps define the ribbon itself, so you don't have to worry about where the white isn't printed because you've got the black outline that helps define the ribbon on that side of it. So it's not an issue on this one. If that black line wasn't there, then those white areas wouldn't have any defining shape. So it would be a little bit harder to see the edge, see where the ribbon was supposed to stop, if that makes sense. All right, 3 down, guys, 3 down. Yeah, one will have a second decal. Actually, I was going to message you, Amy, after I was done with the video. I was going to message you. I'm going to place that one, but I'm not going to do it live because I didn't want to get the wording wrong. So message me to let me know exactly what you want it to say, and I'll get that placed on the one cup for the back. I do all my printing with a laser printer, and laser printers do not run when they get wet. Okay, and what you'll see as I'm doing this, I'm turning the cup too, because with it only being the first layer of epoxy, as I'm wetting the cup, I'm also feeling where the smoothest surface is, because there are, like right here is rough. I don't want to put the water decal here because I don't want any texture to show through. So the reason I'm turning the cup while I do this is to make sure that I choose the smoothest area for the water slide decal to go on. Now if it was the second layer of epoxy, that would be less of an issue. Generally the second layer of epoxy, you don't have to worry about any of that because it's pretty much completely smooth at that point. But these ones, all of these cups came out so smooth after the first coat of epoxy, I figured I would go ahead and place the decal and then put 2 layers of epoxy over it. Just personal preference. You can do it either way in any order that works. I just don't want any of the rough glitter texture showing through. So 1 more to go and then we'll switch to glittering. So if you haven't tried water slide decals yet, definitely recommend it. They are my favorite to work with. That's actually what I used on this one too. That I was supposed to ship off and haven't yet because I'm behind. That was a gift, so it wasn't. I promise it's not an order. It wasn't an order. It was a gift for someone, so it's not completely bad that I haven't shipped it yet, but the water slide decals definitely give you a lot of options as far as the colors and images you can use, but keeping in mind when you use a clear water slide, you are limited to the color glitter that you can use. Alright, and that one is ready. Put that in here. You're going to want to wet the cup where the water slide's going to go. That gives you some wiggle room as far as getting it placed and moving it around to where you like it, where you would like it to be. Then you use the silicone squeegee to pull the water out from behind it. And then dry it off. When you dry it off, that helps pull the water out from behind it as well. You're not going to want to epoxy this right away because when it's wet, there still can be water trapped behind it, and it can cause some discoloration in the epoxy if it's not completely dry. So if I'm in a hurry and this is one of those moments, do as I say, not as I do. If I'm in a hurry and I wanted to epoxy this evening, I would set it in like a little bit in front, not completely in front of my little space heater I've got going in the background there, just to dry it out quicker. But that's not something that I tell my customers to do because it's a little bit different if I mess up one of my own cups and it's, you know, I'm replacing my own mess up as opposed to them having to repurchase the water slide. So do as I say, not as I do. If you're printing your own decals and you're in a hurry, you can do a little bit of a shortcut. Just make sure you're not putting epoxy on it before it is 100% completely dry. So those are water slide decals. From here, we're going to do a couple of those 2 purple ombre cups that we had done earlier. And that's all I got planned for this evening because I'm a little tuckered out, I ain't gonna lie. So let me set this aside and we'll set up for the next step. As far as printing your own images on a water slide decal, yes, but I'm not 100% sure I understand what you're asking. So if you are wanting to print your own water slide decals, you can absolutely do that. Any image you want, some show up better than others. If you are wanting to purchase a decal from me, I do have a custom order option where you can have your own water slide image printed, and when we do that, you would message me the image you would like printed. Look at all this glitter. Oh, I messed that up so bad. You would message me the image you would like printed, and that is one of the custom listing options that you would like. Now, if you want me to create a custom image for you, I'm not against it, but it does take a little bit more time because that's something that I would do in between the other orders that I have in my other shops, if that makes sense. If that does not answer your question, message me, and I'll see if I can answer it a little bit better than I did. Glitter cup. All right, changing shifts. Just switching ships, switching gears. You know what I mean. This is the purple cup we did earlier. It is dried, so we're going to start by dry brushing it. I cannot get these brushes anymore. I can't direct you in a place that can get them. I don't even know what they're called. So I apologize for that. I promise you, you do not need this brush to do the dry brushing, and I will eventually make it to the hardware store to show you how to do it with a regular old paintbrush. I haven't made it to the hardware store yet, but I will. So I promise you, you don't need this brush. If you're using a regular paintbrush, just hold a little bit further down on where the bristles are to make it a little bit stiffer, and then you can dry brush that way. I use a laser printer. I personally use a laser printer if you're using for your water slide decals. If you're using anything other than a laser printer, you can still do them, but you're going to have to do different steps. That was what I was referring to as far as YouTube goes. Google, YouTube, how to make a water slide using an inkjet printer. You can do it, it's just different steps, and I don't feel comfortable telling you the steps because I've never personally done them. I don't know them. But I'm sure they're on YouTube, because you have to seal it. You can't just drop it in the water. You have to print it, and then you have to seal it. But it's like a process of sealing. It's not just like spray it once and be done. From what I understand, it's like 3 or 4 layers of sealant that has to go on it in order to be protected from the water, if that makes sense. Okay, so we're just going to start. When I dry brush the glitter off, I start at the top where the lighter colors are, and I just go down. And glitter, a lot of the glitter is going to come off. That's a good thing. We would rather it come off now than in our Mod Podge later, because that would mix up all of the colors. So I just keep going down color by color, and it helps keep the colors from getting too mixed up together. I put it into one big bin that I will eventually use to make magnets or molds or keychains or whatever. At least that's the goal. However, my 3-year-old usually finds it and plays in it like it's a sandbox before then. And that's fine too. He has fun with it, so I'll give him credit. He hasn't done it in a while. He kind of knows now he's not allowed. He calls them stars. My glitter is called stars to him, and he knows he's not supposed to play with mommy's stars. So it's been a minute since he's done it, but usually that is what happens to my bin of glitter. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do the other one since I have the bucket out and the brush. And we're just getting all the extra glitter off that didn't adhere to the Mod Podge. I am very rough with it. I mean, I would rather the glitter come off now than get all gunked up in my brush and mixed into the Mod Podge. If it's coming off now, it was never stuck to begin with. The glitter is, the glitter, it gets everywhere. I had a friend come over and pick up a cup. He was going on a cruise, so he swung by and picked up a cup for his wife, and he literally walked into my house long enough to get the cup. Now keep in mind, because I also sell glitter, I mean, it's more than just the cups. I mean, every day I'm packaging up glitters. Because, you know, any glitter order that's placed by 4 Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, I ship same day. So I'm packaging glitter every day. So he literally walked into my house long enough to get this cup, walked out of my house, and had like 4 pieces of glitter stuck to his face. It gets everywhere, and it never goes away. So, my poor children. I've heard that many, many times. The herpes of the craft world. Herpes. That's something you didn't necessarily want to say on a live. But yes, that is definitely what I've heard too. So, at this point, we are ready to start Mod Podging and glittering. I have all boys. It was so bad. my husband has glitter on him every day as well. And he doesn't even come into my craft room. It's just, it's on me, so it gets on him. And it was so bad. One day he came home from work and he took a picture of one of my cups. Because he works with all females, well, mostly females. And the girls at work were teasing him for always having sparkles on them. And he goes, I have to take a picture of your cup so they believe me when I say I'm not going to the gentleman's club after work. He goes, I told them you make cups and they don't believe me. So my husband had to take a picture of my cups to work to show the girls that that is why he's wearing glitter constantly. I thought it was hilarious too. So I use matte Mod Podge. That is because I got this massively large container of it from Amazon. A lot of people like the hard coat Mod Podge. That works too. It's personal preference, and I don't see a huge difference between the matte Mod Podge or the hard coat. So I go with what's on hand and what was cheapest at the moment. So once you brush off all the extra glitter, I do it the same way I do with my first coat, where I just get it on there and then I worry about getting it all even Steven. And because I did the dry brushing, we don't get too much glitter coming off of the cup and into the brush. Now, there have been times where I forgot to dry brush. You know, you get in the hurry of doing things and you skip steps and all of a sudden you've got a brush full of glitter. And it does get everywhere. So try really hard not to forget to dry brush. Some people seal their glitter with a glitter sealer or a clear coat spray paint, and that's totally cool too. It's whatever works best for you. I look at these as little works of art. I mean, there's not one 100% right way to do things. You're going to figure out the technique that is best for you. I mean, it might be a combination of a few different people's, so there is not one 100% way, 100% right way of doing it. Alyssa, I can only see part of your comments. I'll have to come back after the live. The first step, though, for me personally, because I tape off the majority of my tumblers, the first step for me is taping it off with electrical tape. So I start by drawing a line around the base of the cup and the top of the cup if I'm going to tape off both. On these ones, I don't tape off the top, so I just do the base. Once I'm done taping it off, I'll sand the cup, and then I'll wash it with Blue Dawn dish soap. This is a 30-ounce skinny, Catherine. That is correct. I'll wash it with Blue Dawn dish soap, and then I'll take it outside to spray paint it, because the majority of the glitters that I use are either iridescent or light or white. So I'll take it outside to spray paint it white, and then I let it dry overnight. I'm going to try to stay out of your way when I do this. I'll let it dry overnight, and then I will start glittering it at least, well, possibly the next day. I let it dry at least 24 hours. I still have an issue with my hand being so big for these ones. So with the ombre on this one, you go flat where you want it to be solid color. You're going to tilt up when you want it to start into the next color. So if you look, you can see where the sprinkles are and the Mod Podge is still showing through. That's where your ombre is going to start, where the next color is going to go. What grit sandpaper? I don't know off the top of my head. I make wood signs too. So it's whatever I happen to have on hand. I keep wanting to say 60, but that might be a lie, and I don't want to lie to you. So I will have to, I don't have a piece laying around. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Okay, so with the next color, you're going to start by tilting up and going into the, like I would aim for here because it's still solid color and it hasn't started the ombre yet. And I want to make sure that I get every little piece of Mod Podge covered, so I'll start where it's still solid right before it has started going into the scattered pieces. And any piece that is not adhering to Mod Podge is going to come off when we dry brush it anyways. So I'm not worried about covering up that part that's supposed to be solid purple, I'm not worried about that because it's just going to come off when we dry brush it. What I do want to make sure is that I've got the sprinkled down effect down here to where when the next color comes in, there's Mod Podge showing for it to adhere to. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a solid line, if that makes sense. All right, I don't want to get these out of order. Okay, so the next one, the Mod Podge, or the ombre starts about here, so I'm going to aim for about here to start the sprinkle down to make sure we're covering every piece of the exposed Mod Podge. And this is the color that I really like, so we're going to go a little bit further with this one. If I've missed your guys' questions, I'll hop on. If I don't do it later tonight, I will try to hop on tomorrow morning to answer them. So I apologize for it. I'm trying to pay attention to it, but I'm tired. And I'm sorry for that. Alright, so this next one we're going to do is the Playful Purple, and we'll start right about here because I've got solid color going to about here, and you can see the sprinkle of that color. This color sprinkles down to about here, so we'll aim for here to get all of this little bit of sporadic Mod Podge showing. Okay. And the last color for this one is Limelight. If I can find the opening. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start about here to start sprinkling down, and this will go all the way to the bottom. So once I get this one sprinkled in to where all of that ombre starts and the Mod Podge is showing, then we will go flat and finish up the cup at that edge right there. All of my other cups, I do tape a rim and a base. My skinnies, I have a tendency to go, my skinnies and my wine tumblers, I go all the way to the top. So I don't tape anything off at the top here. When you are done with your second coat of glitter, when you do the Mod Podge, and it's still wet, let me grab my garbage can. That's when you're going to pull off the tape that you started with. This tape was put on as the very, very, very first step of doing the cup before we spray painted or anything. And we leave that on until after this coat of Mod Podge and glitter. So we'll let this dry. Before I do the next step, I'll put new tape on. So I'll let this dry overnight. Dry brush it. No, I think I glitter it, or I tape it first. I can't remember now. My brain's working too hard. So we'll tape it, dry brush it, and then it'll be ready for the first coat of epoxy. So that is it for this particular cup, and we'll move on to this one. But I do have to clean up a little bit first so I don't get my glitters confused. And the glitters that I used for this cup can be found at With Love from vinyl.etsy.com. I used Limelight for the white. This one was Playful Purple, which was the very last purple we used. The one before that was Luxury Lavender, which is like amazing in person, which is this one. Then Lovely Lilac was the other one. All of those are already available on With Love from vinyl.etsy.com, so you could actually order them today if you wanted to. Practical Purple, which is the darkest purple that was used, I don't have in yet, so this is the only one that's not available as of yet. It'll be about a week before it's in, but it is coming, so be on the lookout for that one. All right, last but not least, right? Your second coat of Mod Podge will take more, no, your second coat of glitter will take more Mod Podge than your first coat did, because the glitter that's on there is just sucking it all in. It's absorbing it all. So be prepared that it will take more Mod Podge this coat than it did the previous coat. And as far as the glitter choices, I have a few different whites to choose from. The reason I chose Limelight for this cup is because it seems to take on a little bit of the color that it's paired with. And I noticed that when I did it with a pink ombre like this, it seemed to take on more pink tones. When I paired it with, what was the other color I paired it with? Vintage Vibes. When I paired it with Vintage Vibes, it took on more of a beige tone. And it was the same base coat. I did white base coats for all of them, so I love the way that it sort of takes on what it's paired with. If I'm personally doing an all white cup, then I'll usually go to Opulent Opal, which has a really, it's like a, well, that was the glitter we used on those water slide cups. It's got a really pretty reflective, almost a rainbow color reflection to it. So it's got a great sparkle. Okay, we're just making sure I didn't miss any lumps or bumps before we start the glitter. Okay. So we'll start with the darkest color and move our way down. So you're going to hold it flat until you're ready to start shifting into the next color, and then you tilt it up a little bit so that it sprinkles down, but you're not getting complete coverage. You want that sprinkle down so that it gives Mod Podge, it keeps Mod Podge showing, so that your next color will have some space to get in here. And that's how you get the ombre without those hard lines. So tilt up when you start the next color and aim for a section that is solid so that we're getting all of the exposed Mod Podge covered. And all of this glitter that's going on top of other glitters is just going to brush off when we dry brush it before we do the epoxy, so we're not worried about that. You just want to make sure you get enough sprinkle down to create the ombre effect. And I've said it in a few other videos if you've missed it. If you're new to this and you're just starting with the ombres, start with a the same color but doing different shades of the same color. And it helps get the effect without stressing you out. It's harder to do two completely different colors in an ombre than it is to do tone on tone. So like if you were doing white and black or white and navy, or you get the idea. You're doing two very different colors. It's going to be harder to get the ombre effect than it is when you do two very similar colors. And the last color. If I can find the opening. I don't get glitter on Amazon. I get it from With Love from vinyl.etsy.com is where all of the glitter I'm using can be ordered. Okay. Once you get your coverage, you are ready to take off the tape. I love that. When you do a tone-on-tone ombre, it is so much easier to get the transitions from the darker to the lighter. I promise you, start with tone-on-tone before you start moving to doing very different colors. It'll just make you happier. So take the tape off when it's wet. Then you're going to set it aside to dry before you move on to the next step. That's it, my friends. I have done 2 lives in a day. So I'm exhausted and it's Sunday night. So I'm hoping you guys had a fabulous weekend. For those who have kids home this week for spring break, enjoy. I'm excited to have mine home. They're helpers, so they entertain each other and it makes my life so much happier. And that is it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks so much. Have a good evening.